I'm here with Mitja Simek, who's leading our tech team, about to head over to Slovenia with big milestone to talk about. Mitja, you want to talk about what is in this new release and how this is so different from where we were at the end of 2025?
Yes. A lot has happened in the last 3 months. We made some big architectural decisions towards the end of the year, and we basically had to restart the whole blockchain, the console, like a lot of API, the whole KYC layer and stuff like that. And the team really pulled through and actually delivered a lot of things in the last 3 months.
And we're on a new chain now, right? Like what was the old and what's the new?
It was built on top of Hyperledger Besu. And in the new one, we actually forked Solana. And we did that for a number of reasons. First and foremost, I think would be just the transaction throughput, because we wanted to put more things on the chain. Before it was like, because the throughput was a little bit slower and stuff, and finality was taking quite a lot of time. We were thinking, how do we optimize this? How do we make it better? And so on. So the new chain, actually, some of the heavy stress loading that we've done can like easily do over 150,000 transactions per second. And then it can also do finality under like half a second, which is in our minds kind of like very much needed for somebody to trust the blockchain. And we like to call it its bank grade. And on top of that, we're not just doing like Solana because of Solana. It's also because we want to, as I mentioned, put more things on the chain at the end of the day. So we have tokens now that support negative balances, which is a first in the blockchain world. We have tokens that support partial freezes, which is exactly how the banking system works and things like that. So it's all about like making sure the technology is going to that we have is going to support the bank grade level of quality that we're trying to achieve.
Okay, and I think we made another big change. We used to tie identity or unique name to a phone number, and so you could get like a start over with another phone. But now, for the first time, we're tying your identity back to what we call unique personhood. Do you want to just comment and tell people what unique personhood is and how we've implemented it?
It comes back to like how banks operate in today's world, like managing risk and stuff. So we really wanted to make sure that at the end of the day, things are really tied back to people, back to users. And if we do that, then we have a way where we can actually use tools that are readily available today for us that maybe they were not available 10 years ago. And I'm talking, for example, biometrics, and not just only like scanning your face and so on. We're also talking maybe the palm or fingerprint or voice and stuff like that. So we really want to make sure that whoever's coming through the door is a person at the end of the day. And then we give that person a lot of controls, a lot of features that they can do with that, including, for example, things like I want to make sure that I can I have AI bots, AI agents running certain things, but we still know there's a person behind it. So that was the big change from going from like a uniquely identified, like the phone number, to something like biometric scanning of the face, palm, and other things where we can really be certain that this is a person standing behind it. And again, just going back to the bank and like, because this is tokenized deposits is a bank grade product. The bank needs to rely on these things too. So they need to be sure that this is something that we want to achieve. Plus, on top of that, if we are thinking about doing this throughout the world, I do think there's no other solution that actually, or maybe no other path that we could have taken at this point in time.
So this means that when somebody comes back, if they're trying to recover an account or sign up for a new account, if they're already in the database, they can't come in again as another new unique person. It'll recognize that they're already in the system and it'll say, what do you want to restore? Not, hey, you're new and we're starting all over. You can get more names, but they're all tied back to the same single person. So if you do something bad under any name, it all ties back to your unique personhood. And it kind of makes a big penalty for you doing any sort of mischief in the system, because you're kind of creating a permanent record that's tied to your unique biometric identity. And yet, I believe with this service we call Vaulty, we do all this without having a centralized database of all this biometric identity information. We leave control. Your private key is one-to-one with this cloud instance. Is that right? So there isn't a honeypot of biometric data for a hacker to hack. Do you want to just describe like why we chose that architecture and what the benefits are?
When the biometric check happens, what we do is we store the footprint only. So it's kind of like just the hash. So nobody can reverse engineer basically back to your picture or back to your palm. So we store all those vectors in a database that next time when you come in, as you said, we recognize, hey, you're the same person. We've already seen you. So why don't you restore your account versus just create a new account? And then the way we do this, it's basically your public key, right? So if we store those hashes, nobody can generate them, nobody can reverse engineer them. So it's not really a problem of securing those things online, to be honest, at the end of the day.
Your identity, your biometric is your private key. Only you can unlock, get to all the things. It could be money, it could be messages, it could be credentials. That's all now tied to your real personhood.
It's not a conventional approach, right? Because everybody's trying to make things so easy. It's just like round trip your phone number, you're in. But since we are dealing with real money, we have to make sure that we're taking the right steps to protect that as well at the end of the day. And if we now expand this, as you mentioned, not just to money, but also to messages, to your identity that might open the door somewhere or your car, then this is the only approach that we could have taken, basically.
No more passwords.
No more passports. No, that's all in the past.
So now we've done just a trial with our application, which is USBC, but that's really a reference application. We're looking to then make this capability to access bank money, what we call USBC, available to other developers through APIs and a widget strategy. You want to just talk about what the APIs are for versus the widgets and how they work together to basically support the developer community?
And you're right. We launched what we call a POC. We call it phase 1. And then this is basically friends and family launch to test the technical readiness. The idea behind it is that now that we've seen how actually the usage is and everything else, we are starting to build the architecture around the yes, which is going to be a public offering that we are going to give to everybody. So what we're trying to achieve basically at the end of the day is almost the same as what Stripe did, right? So when Stripe started, they said, hey, 7 lines of code and you can collect money anywhere in the world, like online. And if we are kind of following that path, it's just that we are doing it without, like, not just with the cards, it's basically anything, like anything money related. And we're trying to make it super easy for the developers to use this, which is, again, Stripe made widgets, they still use them today, but at the end of the day, you could use Stripe's APIs and build it yourself as well. So it's a very similar strategy. Obviously, we're thinking about AI too and AI agents, how we can like expose this to like through MCP so that your AI agent can then move money around if you give them enough control. But the difference, as you asked, between the APIs and widget is that if I'm a developer and I just want to collect money very easily, I'm just going to come in, put like a few lines of code in, and I should be able, through the widgets, collect money from anybody. I would be able to onboard users, they would be able to message, they would be able to move money around, move money in whatever. And then, but again, the user is their own persona, so it doesn't matter if you go in through one developer's app versus another developer's app. It's going to work on multiple devices, multiple apps, multiple services. But if you are, let's say, an established company and you're really worried about your user experience and so on, you could use our APIs too, which again would grant you permissions to basically move money using your own UI, UX.
Okay, some other things I saw on this new app that are really exciting is we have USBC Pay, both PushPay and PullPay, which to me, I'm just back from China. It looks like the same system that like WeChat and Alipay happen to use, but we're doing it for US dollars. And this implies everybody in the world will not only be able to pay, but get paid through these methods. Do you want to describe what the difference is between PushPay versus PullPay and USBC Pay?
So PushPay is when I'm sending money to you. So if I'm on my device, it's very easy. I would scan your QR code. I can send you money right away. But I'm the one on my device. And we mentioned we're doing all of this on the blockchain, right? So I have to sign the message to send it over to the blockchain, the transaction itself. But then in the pull, it's a little bit different, right? Because then I'm showing you my QR code and then you are scanning it, which means I can be offline, but you're online. But then you're pulling the money away from my wallet. And it's a scary thing, and also very hard to do if you're running the blockchain behind the scenes, right? Because you don't have access to my private key. So what we've taken is the architectural approach is almost exactly the same as you experienced in China, though the added value that we actually build on top of it is how do we do this with the blockchain without exposing any keys? And this is where Volti comes in, as you mentioned before, the service where you still have total control and you just give
a token, right?
You give a token basically and permission for somebody actually to get that money away from you. But it's completely secure and completely safe. Nothing gets exposed. No mnemonic, no private key gets exposed at any point in time.
That's great. And another feature I've seen, we used to have it a long time ago, but it's coming back with a new sense of purpose, is vouching, where in addition to traditional KYC details, if you don't have a lot of those, you might be able to get a vouch from someone who has a really great reputation. And it's a way to create trust that you are who you say you are and that you're also a good actor. Do you want to talk about how to vouch and be vouched for?
Vouchers are great way to manage risk. I participated on a couple of panels where people were thinking, how do we get this social trust going? Because it's so hard. And then a lot of people actually said, you know what, we're just going to start with one person, and that person knows three people, and then those three people know other three people, and so on. And you would quickly get the tree of like everybody that knows everybody at the end of the day. But how do you do this in an online world? And this is where the vouchers come in, kind of like, because I know you, we've worked together for 10 years. I can easily vouch for you. But the way it works is that when I request a vouch, I actually share the data with you, and then you can review that data, and then you can actually vouch for me based on that data. So think of it, we know we have like bronze, silver, gold, but like in bronze, everything's tested, like nothing's verified. Everything's just provided by me. So now I send this data to you, and now you look at it and you say, you know what, all this data is correct. I'm going to vouch for Mitja at the end of the day. So then I get a vouch. And then what we're also building is this kind of like social graph of trust where we know who's vouching for who. And obviously people are going to misuse that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to come in and create certain things. But as we've seen before with social graphs, it's very easy to actually distinguish between, hey, this group of vouchers is actually, I don't know, malicious or whatever, or they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing. It's not natural. And then we have these people here where they're good. So let's say you are one of the most vouched person on the planet. And then if you vouch for me, that might be actually worth more than anything else that I can get in bronze, silver, or gold at the end of the day.
That's terrific. Because again, in a world where you have identity, blockchain, and AI, if you're going to do janky stuff, you're going to get caught, and there's going to be consequences. I think there's that saying, FOFO, F around and find out. Like, if you want to muck with the system, you can, but you're going to live a permanent record tied to your biometric. You can't get out of it for the rest of your life. So it's easier to be good than to be bad. I think that's the world we're trying to create, and it's a world of risk management, not risk avoidance. We want all the bad guys in the system because we can keep an eye on them. So let me just summarize. I think in this release, we've done 5 things that we thought were foundational. One is we created a recoverable identity. We have spend, send, we have convert, and we have move. And that's what we believe is a feature complete system. And I think you can confirm now that we have all 5 of those things up and operational, maybe in a very basic form, somewhat manual. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
And included in that is we have our first version of USBC Pay. So that includes the PushPay and the PullPay. And we have full personhood. So this is the first time we still use the mobile phone number, but your unique identity is tied now to your personhood. And so we just have 8 billion people to sign up in the world, and then we're done with that, right? And we are intending to support, once you have a name, you can create either an entity and a bot, right? So behind every single one of them will be someone who's ultimately responsible and what we call an ultimate beneficial owner. And do you want to talk about the identity switcher? That's another big feature that's come with this release.
I mean, it's very rudimentary for now, but the idea behind the identity switcher is that you can switch between different identities. So you can create only one persona, as you mentioned, because it's tied to your biometric, but you can create multiple identities. One of those identities, as you mentioned, might be an AI bot. It might be your entity, or maybe multiple of your entities. It might be your, I don't know, alter persona that you're using at night or whatever. But the whole idea is that we just created some sort of a proof of concept where we can easily switch between those identities. And the reason why we did this is because you could use different phones or different devices and you could do it. The main reason is because this is our path towards the delegated authority. Because at the end of the day, the way we see the world is you will delegate some of the things for others to do. And then we can actually see this like exponentially coming fast with AI agents and so on. So it's going to be very easy for me to delegate some of the authority, like, hey, you can actually, I don't know, move up to $100 on my behalf. You can say these things on my behalf and so on. So the idea really is that once you switch between those identities, you can switch and log in as an AI agent, or you can switch to your entity and now you can manage your entity, finances or anything else, messages and so on, and you can switch back. So that's why I think identity switch is kind of like the first step in the roadmap towards delegated authority, but delegated authority is something that we strive for.
I'm just explain a little bit about what it means to share a token versus a password and why that's such a difference in the world.
Yeah, well, the thing is that with the token, you get permission to do certain things, but you don't get permission to do anything, right? With password, you basically open the doors to the house and then it's like free for all. They can whatever they want. And the thing about the tokens is you can easily change them. They get refreshed. And then it's like, there's a lot of good things with the tokens that the world's kind of like is built on top of, where passwords are like really like past tense, basically, at the end of the day.
So Mitja, we've been at this about a decade. We went down the rabbit hole of self-sovereign identity, which I think we both still believe in. But it turns out that people aren't interested in identity for identity's sake. They want to know what you can do with identity. Do you want to comment on that journey and what we've learned?
Yeah, it was a long journey. And we also helped co-create some of the standards out there on W3C and like through W3C on verifiable credentials and decentralized identifiers and so on. People are just so used to kind of using different things where they are the product instead of the other way around as we are building it, where they forgo some of the, I don't know, privacy things. And I don't think they understand all of the implications of what that could mean down the road. I do hope that now in the AI age, people are going to actually kind of see that, hey, we need to change this. And the good thing about self-sovereign identity is that technology is already there. Like we can use it if we want to. It's just that it's not always that easy to convince 8 billion people to, hey, that's actually a better car than the one that you're driving. So I think it will come to that. It's just maybe taking longer than we predicted. But I do remember 10 years ago when we started, we did say, hey, this is not a sprint. This is not one of those typical startups where we go out, we get millions of users and like we just, I don't know, do the hockey stick charts and everything else. But
we're just giving users a good interface. They don't need to know whether behind the scenes, this is all controlled by a government or a evil corp, or in this case, through Vaulty, it's self-sovereign. It just needs to work for them. And, we've said identity is the permission to act. We're giving people a lot of power to act, but we're doing this without it all ending up in the hands of a government, as would be the case with central bank digital currency, or a particular corporation that would have a centralized model of identity. And so we've held true. We're not so much concerned about the particular technical path or technical standard. We realize the world hasn't agreed on a single standard yet. So we've kept all that in the background, but it's been a 10-year journey. And I think we took quite a beating on this for trying to push self-sovereignty. We put up the white flag on that. We've inserted self-sovereignty into the architecture, but the user doesn't have to know about it.
Correct. And then just to add to that, like you mentioned the service Vaulty. The reason we're using Vaulty is because all that personhood and everything else that we talked about is basically tied to your identity. And we're using encryption to store that data. So not even us can actually get to that data unless the user chooses to share that with us. So I think that's the difference what you were talking about. But yes, we did have to raise the white flag and figure out an alternative solution how to solve this.
So I just want to do a little bit more on your origin story. I mean, we have this big team in Slovenia, which is our identity lead hub, but you yourself live here in America and you got here because of a lottery. Is that correct? You want to talk about that process? How did you get to the country?
It was not the money lottery. It was the green card lottery. And yes, I won the green card lottery, and then it was either New York or Silicon Valley. And because I was a techie, it was like, okay, Silicon Valley, here we go. And then got here and never looked back.
And now we've got a big team in Slovenia, and we're talking maybe about doing a sponsorship of the Slovenian cycling team. Pogačar won the Worlds last year, and they're in Montreal this year. So we'd like to continue to double down on Slovenia and our Slovenian athletes. Lila Lepange also, we backed her, and she skied for the Olympics this year for Team Slovenia. So we want to keep backing Slovenia.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. It's a small country with only a million people.
I know,
so
but we got
production and
imports.
stuff
We got you. We got Melania. Look how well we're doing.
okay. We're not gonna get into politics, whether good or bad. But yes.
Not this week, but maybe next week. Mitja, thank you. I look forward to the offsite we're having in the next week, and that's we'll look at the next steps for the next phase. But it's been terrific having the pilot out with the new architecture. It's all guns go.